We look up at the stars and ask, are we alone? It's a huge question. We send probes to Mars. We listen for radio signals from distant galaxies. We imagine aliens on planets that look a lot like our own. They might have 2 legs, or 8. They might breathe methane instead of oxygen. But they live on a planet. They exist in our universe. They are made of atoms. But what if we're looking in the wrong place? What if the real aliens aren't out there, in the vastness of space? What if they are right here, all around us, but in a place we can't see? What if they exist in other dimensions? This sounds like science fiction, and mostly it is. But the idea has roots in real science. The math and physics of the last century have shown us that the universe is much stranger than it looks. The 3 dimensions we see, plus time, might not be the whole story. There could be more. And if there are more places, maybe there's more life. To get a handle on this, we first need to talk about what a dimension even is. It's simpler than it sounds. A dimension is just a direction you can move in. Think about a single point. It has 0 dimensions. It can't move. It just is. Now draw a line. A creature living on that line can only move forward or backward. It lives in 1 dimension. It has length, but no width or height. Now draw a square on a piece of paper. A creature living in that square can move forward and backward, and also left and right. It lives in a 2-dimensional world. It has length and width, but no height. This is the idea behind the classic book Flatland. The flat creatures in that world can't imagine a 3rd dimension. They have no concept of. If you, a 3-dimensional being, were to stick your finger through their paper world, they wouldn't see a finger. They would see a circle, a cross-section of your finger that suddenly appears out of nowhere, maybe changes shape, and then disappears. To them it would be a miracle or a monster. We are 3-dimensional beings. We can move forward and backward, left and right, and also up and down. We have length, width, and height. We live in a 3D world. We can see all of a 2D square at once. A 2D being can't. We can look down on it. And just like the Flatlander can't comprehend our 3rd dimension, we might have a hard time comprehending a 4th spatial dimension. Not time, which we often call the 4th dimension, but another direction of movement. A 4D being could look at our 3D world and see it all at once. It could see inside a locked box without opening it. It could see all of our internal organs. It could appear in a sealed room out of nowhere and disappear just as quickly. From our perspective, its actions would seem impossible, magical. So where are these extra dimensions? Modern physics, particularly string theory, suggests they might exist. The theory needs more than 3 spatial dimensions for its math to work. Some versions of the theory need 10 or 11 dimensions in total. The idea is that the extra dimensions are there, but we don't experience them. Well, they might be curled up, incredibly small, smaller than an atom, so small we just pass through them without noticing. Another idea from something called M theory is even wilder. It suggests that our entire 3-dimensional universe is just a membrane, or a brane for short. This brane is floating in a larger, higher dimensional space, often called the bulk. And there could be other branes, other universes, floating parallel to ours in this bulk. Maybe just a millimeter away from us, but in a direction we can't point to or access. This is the arena, this is the potential home for a different kind of alien life. Not life from another star, but life from another brane, life from another dimension. So what would this life even be like? Our entire concept of life is based on our 3D world. Life here is based on chemistry. It's about carbon atoms linking together, floating in water, forming complex molecules like DNA. It's about cells and bodies that have a shape, a volume, a physical presence in our space. It's a messy physical biological process. Life in another dimension might not follow any of those rules. If a universe had only 2 dimensions, life might be very different. A 2D creature couldn't have a digestive tract that goes all the way through it, from a mouth to an anus. If it did, the tube would split in 2. Its biology would have to be fundamentally different. Now think about a being from a higher dimension. A 4D creature, what would it be made of? We don't know. It might not be made of atoms as we know them. The laws of physics could be different in its brain. Maybe its life is based on energy, not matter. Maybe it's a being of pure plasma or organized magnetic fields. Maybe it's something we don't even have a word for. The question of its consciousness is even more difficult. Our consciousness seems tied to our brains. It's a product of 3D neurons firing in a complex pattern. A higher dimensional being's mind could be structured in a way we can't begin to imagine. It might perceive time differently. We experience time as a flow, moving from the past to the future. A being that exists in more dimensions might see all of time at once, like we see all of a 2D map. Our entire lives might look like a single static object to it. The way it would interact with us, if it could, would be profoundly strange. Remember the finger poking into Flatland. The 2D beings only see a changing slice of it. If a 4D being reached into our world, we wouldn't see the whole being. We would only see a 3D cross-section of it. It might appear as a shifting, bizarre shape. It might seem to pop into existence and then vanish. It could change its form in ways that violate our understanding of physics. This starts to sound familiar. People who report seeing UFOs often describe things just like this: craft that make impossible turns at high speed. No sonic boom, they just appear and disappear. A 3D object moving through our air has to obey the laws of aerodynamics. It creates friction, it makes noise, but if an object wasn't moving through our space, but was instead just presenting different 3D slices of itself into our space, it wouldn't need to obey those laws. A right angle turn isn't a turn at all, it's just a different part of the 4D object intersecting our 3D brain. The disappearance isn't it flying away at impossible speed, it's just it retracting from our dimension. The late great astronomer Jacques Vallée, a respected scientist, looked into the UFO phenomenon for decades. He concluded that the extraterrestrial hypothesis, the idea that UFOs are spaceships from other planets, didn't fit all the facts. The sightings were too strange, too absurd. They seemed to be interacting with us in a symbolic or psychic way. He proposed what he called the interdimensional hypothesis. He suggested we might be dealing with something that comes from a reality that coexists with our own. It's a control system, he thought, something that has been shaping human belief and culture for all of history. This idea also echoes through older stories. Folklore is filled with encounters with strange beings. Elves, fairies, jinn. These creatures were said to live in a world parallel to our own. A world you could sometimes stumble into by accident. They could step into our world, often causing mischief or wonder, and then retreat back to their own. They were not from the stars. They were from right here, but in a different layer of reality. Are these just old stories, or are they folk memories of contact with something genuinely strange interpreted through the lens of the culture at the time? We see aliens and flying saucers. Our ancestors saw fairies and magical mounds. Maybe we're all seeing the same thing, just describing it differently. And what about more personal experiences? Ghosts, shadow people, poltergeists. People experience things they can't explain. A fleeting shape in the corner of their eye. A door opening on its own. A disembodied voice. The mainstream science dismisses these things. But if there are other dimensions, other brains, close to our own, could there be occasional overlaps? Could a ghost be a brief, unstable projection of a person or event from another reality into ours? Could a feeling of being watched be the faint sensory bleed through from a being in a parallel space? It's pure speculation, of course. There is no hard evidence, but it's a compelling framework for thinking about these otherwise unexplained phenomena. It connects the most advanced ideas in theoretical physics with some of the oldest and most persistent human experiences. But if they are here, how would they cross over? How would two dimensions interact? Physics might offer a clue. There are 4 fundamental forces that govern our universe: the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, electromagnetism, and gravity. The first 3 are incredibly strong, but they operate at very small scales. Gravity, on the other hand, is ridiculously weak. You can overcome the gravitational pull of the entire Earth with a small refrigerator magnet. Why is gravity so weak? Some physicists working on brain theory have an idea. They suggest that gravity might be the one force that isn't confined to our brain. It might be able to leak across the dimensions, it's a higher dimensional force, and we only feel a tiny fraction of its true strength. If this is true, gravity could be the bridge. It could be the way to communicate or travel between brains. To create a bridge, you would need a tremendous amount of energy, enough to warp space-time itself. Maybe a civilization that has mastered this could create a stable wormhole or a portal. Or maybe they don't travel at all. Maybe their consciousness can just project itself, using these higher dimensions as a conduit. This leads to another possibility. Maybe the aliens are not biological creatures at all. Maybe advanced life evolves beyond the physical body. It might become pure information or pure consciousness. Such a life form might exist in the fabric of space-time itself. It wouldn't need a planet or a star. Its home would be the mathematical structure of reality. We look for life by searching for planets with water. We listen for radio signals, which are a form of light. We are looking for something like ourselves. This is a reasonable place to start. But it's like looking for your lost keys only under the streetlight, because that's where the light is. The keys could be anywhere. Life from another dimension might not use radio waves. Its signals might not be electromagnetic at all. They might be gravitational waves. Or they might be something we haven't discovered yet. A message from a 5D civilization might look like random noise to our 3D instruments. We might be flooded with their communications every second of every day, but we lack the senses to perceive it. It's not a language we don't understand. It's a medium we can't even detect. There's also the problem of intent. Why would a higher dimensional being even bother with us? Think about our relationship with ants. And we are, for all practical purposes, higher dimensional beings to them. We can interact with their 2D world in ways they can't understand. We can drop food in their path, we can put a wall in front of them, we can flood their home. We can study them. Most of the time, we just ignore them. They live their lives and we live ours. Perhaps that's our relationship with these hypothetical beings. We are the ants. They are mostly unaware of us or unconcerned. Our entire civilization, our wars, our art, our love stories might be a brief and insignificant flicker in a reality so much larger and more complex. But sometimes, a human decides to interact with the ants. A child with a magnifying glass. A scientist setting up an experiment. The interaction is rarely on the ants' terms. It is often confusing, terrifying, and incomprehensible to them. Perhaps the strange encounters people have reported throughout history are the equivalent of that. A higher dimensional being, for reasons of its own, decides to poke our reality for a moment. To study us? Or maybe just because it's bored. This is a humbling thought. It challenges our importance. The Copernican revolution taught us we are not the center of the universe. Darwin taught us we are not a special creation, but another branch on the tree of life. The discovery of exoplanets shows us our world is not unique. The idea of interdimensional life is the next step in this process of cosmic humility. It suggests that not only is our planet not special, but our entire reality, our 3 dimensions, might be just one page in a very large book. So, how could we ever find out for sure? How do we test this idea? It's incredibly difficult. Science relies on repeatable experiments and observable evidence. How do you observe something you can't see and that might not interact with our world in any predictable way? Some scientists are trying. At the Large Hadron Collider in Switzerland, they smash particles together at near the speed of light. They are looking for new particles, for new insights into the laws of physics. One of the things they look for is evidence of extra dimensions. The idea is that if they create a tiny, fleeting black hole in the collision, it might evaporate in a specific way, radiating energy. If some of that energy appears to be missing, it might have escaped into another dimension. So far, they haven't found anything conclusive, but they are looking. Another avenue is looking at gravity. If we can build sensitive enough detectors, we might be able to spot anomalies in gravitational fields that suggest an influence from outside our 3D space. These are long shots. They are experiments on the very edge of what is possible. Perhaps the biggest barrier is not technological but conceptual. Our brains evolved to survive in a 3D world. We are hardwired to think in terms of objects, distances, and linear time. We may be fundamentally unequipped to truly grasp a higher dimensional reality. It might be like trying to explain color to a person born blind. You can use analogies, you can describe the physics of light waves, but they can never have the direct experience of seeing red. We might be in the same boat. We can use the language of mathematics to describe 10 dimensions, but we can't truly picture it. We can't feel it. If a 4D object appeared in front of us, we might not even recognize it as an object. Our brains would struggle to process the input. It might just look like a confusing mess of light and shadow. Or maybe our brains would just ignore it like an optical illusion it can't resolve. So where does that leave us? The idea of life in other dimensions is not, strictly speaking, a scientific theory. It's more of a philosophical speculation that grows out of the strange soil of theoretical physics. There is no proof. There is only a chain of what-ifs. What if string theory is right? What if there are other brains? What if life can exist there? What if they can interact with us? It's a powerful idea because it opens up the universe. It means that the cosmos could be infinitely more populated and infinitely stranger than we ever imagined. It suggests that our search for life shouldn't just be directed outwards, towards the stars, but also inwards, towards the fundamental nature of reality itself. It also changes the nature of the Fermi paradox, the question of, if aliens exist, where are they? Maybe they're not hiding, maybe they're not silent, maybe they're everywhere, maybe the universe is teeming with life, but it's all happening in the dimensions next door. We are separated by a wall we can't see or touch. We live in a bustling cosmic city, but we are stuck in a soundproof room. This is not an answer, it's a bigger question. It pushes the boundaries of our imagination. It forces us to confront the possibility that reality is not what it seems, that what we perceive with our five senses is only a thin slice of the whole. We are like creatures living on the bottom of the ocean. We look up and see a shimmering, shifting surface. We see shadows move across it. We don't understand what is up there in the world of air and light. We can only guess. Maybe the shadows are just waves, maybe they're nothing, or maybe they are the signs of a vast and complex world we are not yet equipped to understand. The search for alien life is often seen as a search for others, but maybe it's also a search for ourselves. A search for our true place in the cosmos. Learning that we are not alone on a small planet would be a profound discovery. Learning that our entire reality is just one of many, and that life exists in forms we can't comprehend, would be something else entirely. It would change everything. Until we have evidence, it remains a story. A good one. It's a story that reminds us that we should stay curious, we should keep asking big questions. We should be prepared for the possibility that the universe is not just stranger than we imagine, but stranger than we can imagine. The aliens might not land on the White House lawn. They might just be a flicker in the corner of your eye, a whisper in the static, a ghost in the machine of reality, right here, right now, just one dimension away.